In celebration of summer, we are featuring the top 10 episodes of 40 Thrive ever. Next up, number 4.
You're listening to the 40 Thrive Podcast, the show created for women 40 and beyond, ready to shake things up. And now, your host, Jackie McDougall.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the 40 Thrive Podcast. If finding love is on your priority list for 2020, then this episode is for you. Or maybe you're just ready to take your love life to the next level. Either way, you will definitely want to hear what today's guest has to say. Damona Hoffman is a dating coach, media personality. She's starred in A+E Networks TV series Black Love and A Question of Love. Demona previously held creative executive positions at CBS, Paramount, and NBC Universal. Now she hosts the Dates and Mates podcast. You definitely want to subscribe to that. And she contributes regularly to the Washington Post, CNN, Match.com, and BET, in addition to coaching clients. Now, before we get into the conversation with Demona, which is a good one, today's also day 8 of our 10 days of giveaways. And the featured gift is something that is really super special to me. I know so many of you are personally grieving during the holidays and really every day. Once you hit your 40s, 50s, and 60s, many of us have suffered so much loss, and it can be hard to even get out of bed in the morning. How do we support those suffering in this way? It's so easy to feel helpless and unsure of what to do. Well, I stumbled upon Sharing Solace, a company that was created out of its founder's devastating and isolating grief after losing her daughter. Sharing Solace's mission is simple. They're here to support you as you travel your unique grief journey. They help you to honor your grief, acknowledge your grief as a process of healing, and allow yourself to become stronger because of your life experiences. Today's featured gift is their Circle of Life pendant with their Every Moment is Worthwhile token. Now, what's so special about this gift is that it's meant to be given to someone who may be grieving from a death or a loss. They register the token online to join the Sharing Solace community, and they wear the jewelry close to their heart. Now, when they're ready, they remove the token from the outer locket and release their heavy grief, place it into a new locket, and pass the gift of strength on to someone else who may need it. I was just so touched by this gift and this idea and how meaningful it is. I knew I had to feature it in our 10 days of giveaways. So head to the show notes at 40thrive.com/episode 52 to find out how to enter to win this gift. And thank you to Sharing Solace for sharing your gift with us and the whole 40 Thrive community. So let's get into today's episode. Here's my conversation with dating coach Demona Hoffman. Demona, welcome to the 40 Thrive Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I am excited we met at
She
Podcast Live in Atlanta. My gosh.
That was a good time.
So much fun. The power of female podcasters can only grow when we get together. It's insane.
Yes, like the estrogen in that room was fierce.
So before we get into all of your amazing advice and expertise, like take us back a little bit, because nobody's born a relationship expert and a dating coach. So take us back, because you were also, we have similar backgrounds, that you were in television.
Yes, I was until I still am in television.
I've
just changed.
You're never out of television.
I've tried to walk away, and it keeps sucking me back in.
Yeah, it's kind of like the mafia.
Exactly. Yeah, I was working in television as a casting director initially. That was my big dream, to come to LA and work with actors. And then I found that there were a lot of actors that didn't know what to do to get their foot in the door. They didn't know how to present themselves. And so I started teaching classes for actors in marketing and branding and looking at their headshots and teaching them how to tell their story and what to do when they got in the room. And at the same time, I was dating. and dating pretty frustrated and unsuccessful. I was going out a lot, but I wasn't meeting the right kind of guys.
Right.
So my boss at the time actually had told me about this cool new thing called online dating.
Now, what year is this?
This is like 2001.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe 2002, but I think it was 2001. And she's like, look at all the guys I'm dating. She'd just been through a divorce. She was in her 40s and she had 2 kids and she didn't have a lot of time. So she found that with online dating, there was long before the iPhone. So this was like on the computer.
Right.
She was having date after date. She was lining 2 up a night. And I was like, I got to get in on this. So
Wow, she was like a trailblazer.
She was definitely early to the game, and she was cool and she was attractive. And a lot of the impression I had about online dating before was like it was for weirdos, people who couldn't get dates. But instead, I learned from her that it was for people that really wanted to be specific about who they were dating. So I ended up doing very well with online dating and realizing that all of that time I had been training actors in marketing and having headshots that stood out was helping me learn how to tell my story through my photos and how to make a good impression in the first date room as opposed to the audition room. So I ended up meeting my husband online 16 years ago. Wow. And pretty soon thereafter, people would come to me and ask me to look at their profiles. So I started out as a profile writer initially, and then I was getting people on a lot of great dates, and then they would show up on the date and do the same thing that was keeping them single. And I realized I had to also become certified as a dating coach, first as a life coach, and then specifically as a dating coach, so that I could shepherd people through the entire process of dating all the way up through a relationship. So I actually learned how to properly teach people everything from communication to flirting skills to pacing the relationship. And these are major valuable skills. And that's the important thing to remember, Jackie, is that dating and flirtation, they are learned skills. And somehow we got this message as women, maybe from watching too many Disney movies. Oh, there's always a happy ending, and every woman should know how to attract a man. And if you haven't found somebody by the time you're 40, then you've done something wrong.
So not only are you teaching people how to show up and like present themselves like a casting director would, but you are teaching them once they get in the room how to maximize that. Like, what are what are people doing wrong when they're getting on the date that they're not getting the second date?
Oh, well, that's complicated.
I mean, obviously it depends on the person.
It depends on the person. And my process actually begins before you get to the first date. So I find that a lot of the problems are pre-first date problems because you may be on the date with the wrong person. So what I do in my programs, whether I have online programs I have a 30-day online program and shorter. And then I have a 3-month program for people that want to work with me one-on-one if they want that tailored approach of what exactly am I doing wrong.
Right.
But generally, all of my programs follow a 5-step process. And this is going to sound very unromantic, but I've been doing this now for 15 years, and I've had so many people go through this process and say, I can't believe I didn't know that, and I can't believe how quickly my life's changed. So I know it works. You start with mindset, always. And there's always something, I look at it like a dating funnel. If you are not in the relationship that you want, or you're not enjoying your dating process and meeting the kind of people that you want, something in your dating funnel is broken. There's a hole somewhere here. And you may have 2 holes, you may have 1 hole, you may have all 5 holes, but we just go through the funnel and we shore up wherever the holes are. And then by the time we're done shoring things up, your love life is flowing. So the first step is mindset. What belief systems are you coming into the dating process with? Which past relationships are you still holding on to? What beliefs were given to you from your parents, and which relationships were modeled for you?
Right.
And we unpack that. And that's a really key step of the process of just laying that foundation. Who am I? What do I need to work on? Who am I looking for? And then we get into the second step, which is where do we find them? This is sourcing. Where am I looking? You may be saying, I don't want to do online dating. Dating apps are the worst. None of my friends had good experiences with it, or I tried Match.com in 1999 once and I had a terrible experience, so I'm never doing it again.
Right.
We have to be in the place where the person that you want to meet is most likely to be. And sometimes that means you're being in multiple places, online, offline, and we figured that out. And then screening. This is where a lot of people go wrong. You don't want to just go on any date. You're going to burn out if you do that. And then you'll feel frustrated as well. If you're on these dates and you're like, I don't like any of these guys, then you have a screening problem. Then you're not screening properly before you get to the date to make sure.
How do you do that?
It's
like, or should you get on the phone? Should you just be emailing?
It starts really with the mindset piece and really getting clear on what you're looking for, so that when the person lands in your inbox or asks you for your number out at a charity event, I don't know, I'm going like the highbrow route, then you are looking to see how well they align with your values and your goals for the future and what you're looking for before you even say yes. You can screen somewhat through dating apps. It's getting harder now because when I was online dating, you had a lot of information to go on before you even went to the date. Now you have to get the information more through texting, but there's a really key step in the process that I have my clients do that really changes whether or not they get ghosted. It changes their enjoyment on the date, and that's a phone call before you get to the date. I think you can tell a lot from hearing someone's voice, from seeing if they can talk authentically about the things that they showed pictures of in their profile or what they've mentioned. Really get a sense of what is that vibe going to be like, and just do this 10-minute phone call and then drive forward to the date. So if everything is checking out and you have a good feeling about meeting up with this person, you have to get offline and get in the room. And then that first date, this is another game changer. I have my clients only stay for about an hour and a half tops. And so many of us are overstaying that first date. And then you end up exhausted. You end up revealing things you would never say about, you really want to say about yourself.
You end up drunk.
Or you end up drunk. That's the other thing. I have people set a limit. Like what is the max that you can drink and still feel present and like you're making decisions that are in your best interest. For me, I'm a lightweight. I knew it was one drink. With my husband, I had two, but that's another story. But then
It worked out.
There's a lot of tactical things you can do on the first date in terms of flirting. I work on flirting and presentation. Like what is that initial impression that the person has of you? And then how do you build the chemistry and the connection? And I really have my clients focus on curiosity over chemistry. Like so many times we're looking for whiz bang. We're looking for the Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
Nothing against Hallmark movies. I have many friends that have written very successful, very lovely Hallmark movies, but it's a story.
Right.
And this is reality.
Yes.
Like I'm dealing with a client right now who she's been out with this guy 4 times. And she's like, but I don't know. Like, I don't know where it's going, but I feel like I should be dating more. Like this is the 3rd guy she went out with. This happens to me so many times with clients when they do my one-on-one program. That's the 3rd guy she went out with. The client before too. It was the 2nd guy she went out with. And then they start to question like, it was just so easy. It's supposed to take longer. I'm supposed to meet other guys.
It's like when you go to buy that outfit for the big whatever it is event.
Yeah, and you find
the dress first, and then you're like, oh, this can't be that easy. So then you go shopping for the next 5 days.
That happened
and then
to
go
me
back to get that first one
with my wedding dress. I was just like on a whim. My very good friend was also getting married the same like a month later, and so I was in New York. She lives in New York. We're like, let's go to the garment district and go shopping for wedding dresses on your lunch break. I'm not thinking I'm going to find the one there. Of course. And then I found the dress. And then how much time did I spend looking at other dresses?
That's exactly right.
Trying to assess whether, and this is the thing with dating is like, if you have a bird in hand, you don't want to let the bird go. Because if you do, how many times have we had that? Like, well, I wasn't sure at the time. I let him go. And now he's happily married and he's moved on. And I didn't seize the opportunity when I had it.
So you just never know when it's going to happen, and you should be open to it.
You never know what's going to happen, but I do find that when people come to the process mindfully and deliberately, things happen. Like this story of when you just stop looking for love, it finds you. Never happened for one of my clients. When they come to me for help and they're like, I'm ready to focus on dating. And I say, I'm not asking you to focus on dating for the rest of your life. I'm asking you to give it 3 months of making this the number one priority in your life. And chances are most of the clients that come to me, they haven't made it their top priority. They've said, oh, well, I'll find the guy when the time is right. Or if he crosses my path, then I'll know.
Right.
It's a totally different mindset to say, I am making dating my number one priority for the next 3 months. I am putting aside engagements with friends. I'm putting aside work. I'm setting up boundaries in my life so that I can carve out time to devote to something that is really one of the most important decisions you will ever make in your life, who you're going to spend your life with.
Yeah, but here's the thing. We don't honor it as that. So whether we're married like you and I are, or, I remember when I was dating, and dating apps were so my husband and I got together in 2001. And the last thing I did before we got together was dating apps. And, there were a couple guys that I dated, not anything like, it was a very different time then too on dating apps, I think.
I remember.
you do. But I think that, there's this message that we send to women that, oh, but you don't need a man. You don't need a partner, whether, you're into men or women. Like, you don't need. Like, you should be able to be this Wonder Woman. You should be able to be this independent. And like, you can be all that and still want to be in love and share your life with someone.
Yeah.
But I think we really need to flip the script a little bit, or at least tweak the script, in that we're making it okay for, and you're doing this every day. Like, this is your life. So, we live a very different life because you're seeing these women, but I do want to be able to like honor them and say, hey, if that's a priority in your life, that's great, because sharing your life with someone is a wonderful thing, and go ahead and make that a priority. But instead we don't do that.
Exactly. I talk about this a lot on my podcast, Dates and Mates, about single shame. There is this feeling of shame around singlehood, especially if you're over 40, and especially like if you're over 40 and you're divorced and you're single again after not having dated for a long time. There's this feeling like we shouldn't talk about it. We shouldn't ask for help, whether that's in the form of setups, introductions, or something else. We have to push that down and swallow it. And I see nothing wrong in being single. And if you are living your best life and you want to be single and you don't want to blend your life with someone, I say more power to you. Great. And I mean, it's a biological need for you to have intimacy, have sex, and most people and most of the women that come to me aren't just looking for a casual relationship, but sometimes I work with men too. And sometimes that's what the men are looking for. And I don't ever shame why people are coming to me for help, but I do make my clients who are committing to this process make it their number one priority for the period of time that we're working on the program. And it's just like anything else. I know a lot of the women that listen to this podcast are very successful in many areas of their life. And you don't get successful just by wishing it happens and hoping and waiting. You get successful by doing.
Right.
And dating, I feel, is the same way.
And this is their permission. If you're listening to this and you're single and you're trying to hide the fact that you would like to be in a relationship or you would like to have a partner, this is permission to like screw all that. First of all, listen to Damona's podcast, because I'm married and I was listening to it on the way here and it's just so good. But,
Thank you.
But I think, and as married women, we need to honor the fact, like we need to open up this conversation. So I love what you're doing. So we're giving them permission. And now what are some of the steps that they can take? Is online dating really is that the best way to go? Because I have lots of questions that we're going to get to from my audience. And one of them is like, where do I start after divorce? Yeah. But is online dating the only way to go?
It's so funny. I just did an interview for BBC and they asked me that question. They said millennials are actually deleting Tinder at record numbers. And they were asking, is online dating the only option? And I don't see it as the only option, but I see it as in many times your best option, especially if you're over 40 and you have your life set. And that's a great thing, but it means that there aren't many opportunities for you to have new connections made. And I just think when we really take a step back and look at it, the fact that we have, your dating pool used to be just whoever was in your immediate circle and there's all sorts of data, and I love data, on how a few generations ago, most people married someone that lived within a 5-mile radius of their house. So it was who lived on your street, who your parents knew, who went to your church. And then the pool began to open up as people moved away from their home cities. And now with the dating apps, your pool has expanded to anyone in the world. I have clients who have met someone in another country, have forged a relationship long distance, and ended up together, that are still together. Some 10 years later are still together with someone they met in another country. Without online dating, they would never have connected.
Right.
And actually both the ones that I'm thinking of right now are divorcees, one who had 2 kids, and she was like, who's going to want to date me? I have 2 kids. At the time she was approaching 40, and I don't have that many opportunities to go. I'm not going to go to the bar. I'm not going to go out and meet singles at a singles event.
Right.
But online dating she could do on her schedule. And it gives you the ability to do a lot of the filtering, the screening we were talking about earlier, before you even get to the date, so that you're really choosing carefully who you spend that time with. And the thing I always tell my listeners is that time is your most precious resource. It's the one thing you're not going to get any more of. So who you spend your time with is really important. Who you give the gift of your time to.
So true.
Is so important.
Yeah.
And just to go back to like the single shame and why you may want a partner is it's hard doing it alone. There are a lot of responsibilities that I'm sure a lot of your listeners are carrying. There's a lot of financial weight on their shoulders. And I love being married, and I love my husband, and the way he's changed my life is so profound that's really why I do this, because I know that partnership can be the best decision you've ever made in your life. But if you're in the wrong partnership, and I'm sure there are some listeners here that are like, I'm curious, you have my attention, Demona. If you're in the wrong partnership and you and your partner are struggling or fighting, are not on the same page, don't want the same things long term, you don't have to live out that sentence that you've given yourself if it's not the right relationship. You really, being with the right person can have an amazing effect on the trajectory of your life. And so I also encourage people, if they feel like they're not in that highest possible relationship for themselves, to ask some really tough questions and to say to their partner, we need to work on these things now. Time is moving forward.
Yes.
And I see too many people that stay in the wrong relationships for way too long.
Right. Because of the fear of what is out there.
Fear of singlehood. Again,
Right.
I hear this all the time. I'm afraid of going back and doing it all over again. Like, it was so hard to find that person the first time.
Right.
What if I have to start again? And I don't know dating apps, and I don't know flirting, and I haven't had to do this. I haven't had to wear makeup. I haven't had to do my hair. And I think it's much worse to be stuck in a relationship that doesn't make you happy than to go through the process. And yeah, sometimes it's frustrating, and I ride that wave with my clients of ups and downs, thinking a new relationship is going to turn into something and it doesn't, and then you start over. But that's why I'm demystifying the process of finding love, because it's been told to us that it just should magically happen.
Right.
So it feels really
Right.
like when it magically happened for us once before, it feels like, how am I going to create that spark again?
Right.
But you can, just by following these steps.
Awesome. But the other thing too is it's easy to romanticize what meeting somebody looks like and what a relationship looks like. So I think I sometimes see women who are dating and the expectations are very different from what I can only say in what my opinion a relationship looks like. Mm-hmm. So how do you manage that with your clients who maybe think, like, how many times do you hear someone who's like, oh, well, he didn't sweep me off my feet, or I don't feel that, like,
yeah.
Are you supposed to? I mean, you're the expert. Are you supposed to feel like the butterflies immediately and forever?
I believe that chemistry is a liar. So on the first date, you should not, if you are feeling that overwhelming chemistry, usually that's one of the relationships that burns fast and burns out quick.
Right.
I ask my clients to be guided by curiosity, as I said a few minutes ago. It's that curiosity of, I want to know more about this person. I'm curious what their life is like, how they think about the world, what they want for the future. And I don't know if I'm ready to rip their clothes off, but I'm curious about them. Right. And I let that curiosity drive the first 3 dates. If by the end of the third date you're not feeling some sort of physical attraction and chemistry, then I say that person belongs in a different category. And that's where the last step in the process is. That's the follow through of making sure you're getting to the second and third date and really assessing, how does this person fit into my life and what I want? And then again, it's all woven together. You go back to the mindset and figuring out, what are my goals? What are my values? Those are the biggest factors in long-term compatibility. Common goals for the future, shared values, and then respect and conflict resolution and communication. If you have all those four, you have a really solid relationship. And you might not feel butterflies every day of your life.
Right.
But ultimately, you step back and you say, are this person and I are on the same team?
Right.
Are we on the same team? Are we headed in the same direction? And I believe that everything else can be worked out with the proper tools and the proper intervention. I'm a big fan of therapy. My husband and I have a great relationship, but we've sat down with a therapist before, right. And now we have 2 kids, and one of our kids was having some challenges, and I was like, let's send him to therapy. And I think it's great. He's going to be so great in a relationship when he gets to be older, because he's getting these tools at such a young age. And then my husband and I come in and we have parent sessions where we talk about our what's going on with each of us and our relationship, and then how that affects our children. So I'm a big fan of pull all the stuff out of the closet. That's secrets and lies are where relationships are torn apart.
Right. Well, it's interesting because my husband, there's no one I would rather be in a room with. He's the sweetest human you'll ever meet, at least toward me.
Yeah. and that's what's important, Jackie.
Yes.
Towards you.
Exactly.
How you feel when you're with
him. He is
him.
the keeper and protector of my heart. He just always puts me first. He would never, just little things that I've seen in other relationships where one will call the other one out in a party or whatever. My husband would never do that. He may call me out later, but you know what I mean? He's just very protective of me and my heart. Any issues and struggles or, butting heads happens when outside life, money, jobs, kids, special needs, whatever that is. So it's not necessarily in our connection, but the outside things and how we deal with them. Because I'm very tell me what the problem is so I can fix. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, let me step back and process. I'm like, what is this processing? It seems like laziness, but we all come to the table in a different way. And so I think it's awesome to be able to focus on yourself and focus on what you need as a human being in order to meet the person, like you're saying, and to start those first 3 dates and see what their goals are before all of these outside pressures get involved. I see it a lot when somebody has that connection and then they bring the kids in, to the relationship, or they try to take what is a spark and may ultimately work down the road, but they shove real life into it so soon that it blows up. Do you see that with your clients?
Well, I feel like we're all in a hurry to get to the ending. Like I was saying with this client earlier, she just is like, I need to know, is this the guy or not? Right. And I'm like, I don't know. That's the crazy thing. I don't know the answer. I know a lot of things, and I've been doing this a long time, but I can't tell you if that person is the right person for you or not.
Right.
You have to go through it, and you have to let it unfold naturally. There's this
Would you rather be married in 6 months and divorced in 12? Or give it the 12 months to really figure it out.
Yeah, true. Oh, and I've seen that happen too. But I hear a lot of times from clients that they want to just put it all out there. I've got all this stuff. Here's my baggage. Let me see your baggage. Can we work with it? And that's a strategy that will most likely backfire. Instead, you want to reveal things over time. I believe in what Dr. Helen Fisher calls slow love. That real connection. I keep using the word chemistry because that's what everybody else connects to, even though I think chemistry is a dangerous thing to chase. But when I'm talking about chemistry, I'm talking about that feeling of knowing someone and really trusting them and being able to build a foundation with them. So Dr. Helen Fisher's theory is that you'll be more successful in a relationship if you pace out your interaction. So when people tell me I had a great first date, we spent 6 hours together and then we went for drinks. And then he said, do you want to have brunch tomorrow? And so then we met for brunch and then I just stayed over and we've seen each other every day for 10 days and it's going great. I get super nervous because to me that means you're giving up so much of yourself so soon and you're also like so available.
Right.
It amazes me how women are so protective of their time when they haven't met the person. But then as soon as like someone gets their foot in the door, they give them the keys to the whole place and let them run
the rest
wild.
of their life to start as soon as possible.
It's the chasing the story again.
Yeah.
It's chasing the story. And look, I've been there. Like, I'm not sitting here on my high horse like, well, I'm married and I figured it out and this is how you do it. I'm saying this because I've been there and I've done that.
Did you jump in at first with your husband?
No. It was a very slow burn. I've had the opposite where I had the butterflies on the first date and then was like planning our wedding by the second date.
Right.
And
writing your names together in a notebook.
Girl, I've done all of that. I've done all of that. And it was just so different when I met my husband. And I've just seen this so many times with my clients. When they meet the one, they're like, oh, this is a different kind of feeling. I'm not asking the same kind of questions. Right. I'm not worrying about the same things. It's just fitting together. And the more time I spend with him, the more I want to know him. And the more I know him, the more I want to be with him. That's how it should be. Now, of course, not every relationship proceeds like that. And sometimes you have hiccups and you have major life events that you have to deal with. And so sometimes you get off course a little bit and then you come back together. But the moral of this story is the longer you give yourself to trust a person and the more you allow them to show the true self to you, because nobody's really themselves on the first or second date.
Right.
That isn't revealed until the going gets tough. But once you get to see that and you're like, I'm okay with all this. I'm okay with the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we can work through this together. That's when you know you're with someone. I see myself with my husband forever. But I also think like sometimes relationships are the right relationship for that time. So I also don't look at any past relationships as failures, as something that was a waste of time. A lot of times when I'm doing the mindset work, I have to disassociate feelings with past relationships that are not serving my clients to be able to move forward into a healthy relationship. So I say that relationship, it's almost like the Marie Kondo method, except for like relationships. Like you take the stuff out of the closet, right? And then you look at it and you're like, does this spark joy? No. But then there's that key part of the process that she does where you thank it.
Yes.
Thank you for the role that you played in my life.
Right.
Ugly floral print shirt. Thank you, person that dragged me through the mud and made me feel like crap, because now I know I deserve better than that and I don't want that anymore in my life. So thank you for showing me that lesson. I send you off. Right. I cast you on your way, and I
fold you into origami.
I fold you into origami. No,
that's only if you keep it. Never mind.
Yeah, no, I fold you into origami, and then I give you away. But I create the space for something better to come in. Because if your closet's already full of stuff you don't want, where is the new stuff gonna go?
Yes, I see that a lot. Where it's like, oh, he's good for now. And I don't mean necessarily the husband, but like dating. And it's like, well, do you have extra hours in your day that I don't have? Because where do you find the time to entertain this mediocrity that they describe as mediocrity and not, then there's no space for what could be.
But what it is, again, you hit the nail on the head. It's the fear. It's the fear of, if I let this one go, when is the next one going to come around?
Right.
And there's just so many ways to fill your life that in a way that's fulfilling to you while you are doing the process of bringing that person into your life. I personally was never someone that needed to be in a relationship. I was more of like the avoidant attachment style, where it was just like, okay, you don't check my boxes, bye.
Yeah.
I would not give someone more than 6 months of my life if I couldn't see it progressing. It was like, okay, I would rather be alone than be with this person that is sucking my energy and my lifeblood from me. But I know there's probably more women that have that anxious attachment style that feel like if I let this one go, I might not have that feeling again. I might not have another again. So I'm going to hold on to this with all I have.
Right. I was the contortionist who would like bend it every which way to try to become the person that I thought he would be interested in. And all the time I would go to work and I'd talk to this guy and tell him all of my dating stories, not knowing that this guy at work would ultimately become my husband.
Oh, see, that's like a rom-com movie,
right?
Yeah,
he was like the perpetual friend, like never, ever, ever. Like under lie detector, never did I ever consider that he would be the right one for me. And what's interesting, because I want to get to these questions, but when I say the right one for me, do you believe in the one?
I don't believe in the one. I believe in many ones.
Me too.
And I think this quest for the one keeps a lot of people single.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because you're thinking, well, it's not perfect, so he must not be the one. And I read again, statistic. I read
love
a stat.
Your stats.
Yeah, I love my stats. That was like 76% of people believe in soulmates. And I was like, oh, that is depressing to me. Because if you think that there's a soulmate, that there's someone that's destined for you, how are you going to find that needle in a haystack? And then you're going to toss out all these other gems because you're looking for that one soulmate?
Well, and what happens if you tossed him out on the third date because you didn't have the butterflies and it was the guy? The whole like, oh, he's not the one. And so when I say to people like, well, my husband's not the one, and they look at me like I'm awful, I'm like, he's the one for me that I have chosen for my life and my life partner. And I plan to be with him, until the day I die or through the day I die and beyond if that's even possible. But I don't think that he's the only one that could be compatible with me in certain ways.
There's another dangerous phrase that I hear a lot of people using. Is your partner your best friend? I want my partner to be my best friend. And I'm like, there's no way my husband's my best friend. He's not my best friend.
Right.
That's a totally different category. I have several best friends, girlfriends, and our relationships are 180 degrees different from one another. Now, he's the person that I trust most. He's the person I tell everything to. He's the person that I enjoy spending time. Do I enjoy spending time with him the most? I mean, he's the only one that I'm sexually attracted to as well.
Well, he's the chosen. You've chosen him.
I've chosen
to be
him.
Your partner for life.
He's a really good friend of mine. He's not my best friend, and but I think it's dangerous when people are looking for their partner to be their everything, and that is the most challenging part of dating apps today, is that now that our dating pool has expanded from this person's good enough because they live down the street and I know their mom and they come from a good family to like, I need someone that checks all of my boxes. How many times have you heard that? Yeah. I need them to be my intellectual equal. I need them to make as much money as I do. I need them to be kind and smart and funny and like all of these things that just make that person really unattainable.
Right.
And I just don't believe that your partner should be your everything. And it's much easier to find a partner when you're looking for a partner to be your romantic partner and your life partner. So I have a lot of people that check a lot of my different boxes. And my husband is sort of like he is the core, he's the nucleus, but it wouldn't work if everything I wanted to do and be was wrapped up in this other person. You got to bring that to the table yourself and then find your community. And I have a lot of different communities that fully make my life whole.
Agree. I think I may have written about this years ago when I was blogging more, in that I think the title of the post was "My Husband is Not My Best Friend." So you and I are soulmates.
Exactly. I know. I feel that connection with you.
Right. So exactly that. The other thing too is like, I don't want to take that title away from those women who've shown up for me, who've held my hair back in my 20s, who've diapered my babies in my 30s, who you know what I mean? They've been there for everything. And so, I'm fully fully on board on that. So let's get into some of these questions.
Can't wait.
All right. So we talked about this a little bit at the beginning. I teased it, but one of the community members messaged me privately and said, I'm recently divorced. I'm thinking about dating and getting back out there. It's been a long time. What do I do first?
First, decide you're going to do it. That's like always the first step, is just saying yes to the process of dating. And then we start with the mindset work. Do an exercise. I think I have a few masterclass. Go through the Dates and Mates podcast masterclasses is a good place to start.
Cool.
Because those are free. Of course, I have other
I'll
programs.
link to those
but
in
those are
the show
free.
notes as well.
Thank you. But begin with, who am I looking for right now? And you really have to do this. I have my clients do this even if they thought that they knew or they had a list from a year or two ago. It changes. It evolves. Same thing with your profile. People will pick up their profile from 5 years ago and be like, well, I'm online again. And I'm like, first of all, that picture doesn't look like you. Second of all, what are you even saying in this profile? Your life changes. So the profile is a living document, and what you're looking for, it changes from time to time. Mm-hmm. So get really clear on that. And then I play this game of, where are they hiding? You try to figure out, like, each dating app has a different personality. So if you're looking for someone, you're only interested in dating someone, say 50 plus, then you go to a 50 plus dating site, like an Our Time. Or if you are looking for someone who is Jewish, you should probably go to JDate, because then you know you have a pool that meets one of your core criteria. Mm-hmm. And then you also figure out, well, how does the app work? Do I like the functionality? I think one of the reasons people are deleting Tinder is that Tinder was the first person in the marketplace. And now a lot of apps have iterated off of the model from Tinder, which was very innovative at that time. But now there's people that are just really doing it better and that are making connections in a better way.
And that are more niche for somebody who might want to find somebody.
They are more niche, and also like the way that we communicate through the apps has changed. So Bumble, if you don't like getting just random messages in your inbox, I like it because I think it's part of the filtering process. But if you don't like getting the random messages in your inbox, then you should probably be on a Bumble where you're the one sending outgoing messages. Women have to send the first message on Bumble. It's a mutual match. So you have to both
they
say,
choose you and then you choose them,
then you have to message them first, and you have 24 hours to do it.
Okay.
So
it does sound like a fun game. Like
it is, but I've always, this is like the biggest game changer, Jackie. I always have had my female clients for 15 years send outgoing messages. That is, and still, and I work with Match a lot. So I should let people know that, like, I do content for Match, and I think that's a great app if you can do the searching and if you can use all of the tools that they have. But it can be overwhelming if you just want something simple and basic, like maybe Tinder is better for you. But I've always said,
Tinder's not like just a dirty app. I always considered Tinder as like hookup.
That's how it started. I'm not gonna lie, that's how it started.
Yeah.
And then as it became more popular, and I'm very grateful to Tinder for just breaking down the stigma. When my husband and I first met online, then we didn't even tell people that was how we met.
Right.
So it's broken down the stigma.
Did you meet
and
on
made
Tinder?
No. Tinder wasn't a twinkle in the IAC group's eye back then.
They probably weren't even born.
No, not even.
The creators.
Oh, the creators
like,
were in middle school,
Yeah.
I think. But this is kind of depressing to think about. But you have to find the app that really works for your personality. Oh, I was saying women sending outgoing messages.
Yeah.
Match has done this survey of their users and found that most women still don't send outgoing messages, but the women who do have like 3 to 4 times the number of connections than women who don't. So we somehow think, because we've been sold this bill of goods from the rom-coms, from the Disney movies, that the woman is supposed to sit back and be docile and allow the man to do all of the romantic work and make the magic happen.
Well, especially, I mean, women over 40, 40s, 50s, 60s, like that's how we were trained.
Yes.
Same with marriage, right? I mean, you
that we
wait
had
for
to do
him.
that.
You can date him for 5 years. And if he hasn't asked you to marry him, like, we just keep waiting. It's so
The
you're
rules
saying
are changing.
Yeah, so take
The
a
rules
more
are changing.
proactive approach.
And here's the biggest takeaway about dating apps is that you have to remember it's a tool. The dating app is just the tool. It is just the conduit that's getting you to the match. Once you get to communication, dating apps are just dating. And in fact, millennials and younger, they don't call it online dating. They don't call it dating apps. They just call it dating. So that's the direction that we're headed. I've said it for 15 years. I was a little bit, sometimes, I'm like too early in the system.
Yes.
But if you really just look at it as this is just making the connection, it doesn't matter who makes the first move. Now, you don't want to get into a position of chasing a guy.
Right.
But just making that, hello, I'm here, and sending the first initial message is not rewriting the rules of chivalry. It's being visible, it's being proactive, it's being a participant in your dating life. And most of the women I find today, they're so proactive in other areas of their life, but because we are tied to this idea, these stories that we were told, we think that in love we should just be able to sit back and let it all unfold for us.
Right.
So what does she do to get into action, decide she's going to start, figure out which app to start with, and you're not marrying the app.
Do you have any apps that you recommend over others for, especially my audience?
I think it depends on what you're looking for. Yeah, I mean, I mentioned a number of apps.
Yeah.
It's what is most important to you and which apps do you like the functionality of. So just sign up.
Right.
Most of them are free to join now. Sign up, see if you like the selection there, see if you like the functionality, and see what lands in your inbox, and then start sending outgoing messages. And from that point, you just have to get into action. So many times I find, especially if someone is coming back into dating after divorce, after not being on the dating market for a long time, the idea of dating is so overwhelming that it becomes bigger than the reality of actually just showing up on the date. And so then I would say just start, really just start with going on a couple of coffee dates and seeing how it feels to you. I have tons of resources.
I'm going to be linking the hell out of these show notes.
Well, thank you. But I do this because I love helping people, especially people who are in that position of feeling like I've been single so long, I don't even know how to do this.
Right.
And really just breaking it down so that it's so doable. It's so doable. And I love, especially working with women over 40 and over 50 who have sort of thought, I'm probably just going to be single. This is just the situation. I'm not meeting anyone new. I don't want to do these dating apps. I don't know how to meet someone through social media, and teaching them the tools and techniques and having them call me. Like, I've had women in their 60s and 70s say, I'm going on 3 dates a week now with different guys. And that never would have happened if they didn't raise their hand and say, I need help. I want to do this. And I just need to start.
Yeah, I love that. All right. So speaking of starting, so one woman asked, how does she approach a man? So now we're offline. Maybe we're in the grocery store. She didn't say exactly where, but what's the best way for a woman to approach a man that she might be interested in?
Begin with what I call a curiosity comment. That could be anything you're curious about. If you're in the grocery store, which is actually one of the worst places to meet a match, or it's where the lowest number of matches are actually made. We think that it's a hotspot, but it's not. But you could start with the grocery store. And I actually have some of my clients practice in the grocery store, on the subway, in places where there are a lot of other people that they're coming across with just give compliments, just ask curiosity comments, just begin conversation with people. And it's amazing because guys aren't used to being approached. It's amazing how they light up when a woman even begins talking to them. And you'll find out very quickly if he's interested in you or not, because once you begin the conversation, then he will want the conversation to keep going, and he will drive it forward.
Right.
And that's really your whole job as a lady. Just begin the opening. And women have always been the ones to initiate. It's just, it used to be nonverbal. You know, we would drop the hanky or we would make eye contact
Snap
or
and
we
bend.
would smile. Yeah.
Bend and snap.
Yeah. That was always a thing.
Yeah.
It's just now there are people like me who are dissecting it. And now we have the digital element that we have to take into consideration. And it's just a comment. It's not an invitation to dinner. It's just beginning the conversation.
So let's play a little game. So curiosity questions, bad and good. So maybe not how much do you make? What would be a good curiosity
I mean, you wouldn't
question?
ask a stranger like, I was just wondering, how much money do you make?
Can you support the lifestyle I'm accustomed to?
Well, that's a whole other conversation that we won't get into. But a curiosity comment is just something about the room, something about them, something about that you're observing. So you're in the grocery store and it's like, oh, I was looking at getting those crackers last week. Are they good? Have you had them before? And then you're into this whole conversation about what ingredients are in the food and what they pair well with, and like, oh, I love Chianti. And now you're jumping into the conversation.
Right.
It could be about something that they're wearing. And I mean, the grocery store, that might be a little forward for that setting, but you know, if you're out at a bar, just making eye contact with him and just say, nice shirt, and smile.
Right.
That's all you have to say. And then he's like, oh, thank you. Well, and then he'll be chasing you. And even if you're just making the connection at the bar, sometimes if you create the opening and then go away, you're the familiar person to them. You might find that later in the night, he comes to find you because he felt that connection from before.
Right.
So that it's just about beginning, really.
Yeah, I love that.
Just start.
All right, I got another private message. How do I meet younger men?
Oh, I love this question.
I was intrigued by this question.
I'm a big fan of women dating younger.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing the trend, obviously, more and more. How do you meet younger men? Well, you have to, again, you figure out who do you want to date? You want to date younger men? Okay, now let's play the game. Where would he be? He might be at a sporting event. He might be at a sports bar. He might be on a team of something. That's a lot of sports references. He might be at happy hour at the bar. He might be at a professional networking event. Maybe he's trying to get his career off the ground, and so he's doing more of networking.
Right.
So you just want to be careful not to get into like the mentor-mentee sort of relationship, because sometimes that does happen. And then dating apps. Dating apps are always a great
Are there
place.
dating apps for older women, or
Any
when
dating
I say
app is really...
I mean, just like to find that particular...
Yeah, I mean, there aren't any that I specifically recommend. That doesn't mean that any of them are good.
Well, let me ask you this. Are there younger men who are putting the age range that they are open to actually in their bio? Is that still a thing?
I'm glad that you brought that up, because it's a thing, but it's not a thing that I pay attention to. Because...
so the age range you don't pay attention to?
Not what they say they want.
Oh.
Because studies have shown that men will respond to a woman if they find her attractive, regardless of what the age is. And I've seen it in my own practice of women, especially like I was saying, women in their 60s and 70s that are like, oh, well, that guy, even though he's my age, he's saying that his age range is 50 to 60 and I'm 60 to 70. I'm like, I don't care.
Right.
Send him a message.
Right.
If you're hot.
Yeah.
You are interested in the same things he is. You live within a 20-mile radius of his house, send him a message. And most of the time, if their profile is done right and the man finds them attractive, most of the time the guy writes back.
Right.
We get caught up. Actually, the same thing happened when my husband and I were dating. He almost didn't write me because I thought that I had to date an older, more sophisticated man. And we're the same age. So he wasn't coming up in any of my searches. If he hadn't just said, oh, forget it, she doesn't know what she's looking for, and messaged me anyway, we wouldn't be here right now.
Wow. And I have a friend who, is in her 40s, and she wouldn't check the box that allowed men over 50. And I was like, it's a few years away from you. Yeah, but they're old, they're shrivelly. I'm like, I've seen some 50-year-old, 60, even 60-year-old guys that are pretty hot, you know? So I think it's being open-minded to the fact that what you think, I mean, I'm a prime example of what you think you will end up with doesn't have to be the case if you just open your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of the apps, it's harder to do that because it's just the swipe. It's not the search.
Right.
But, you know, if you're on a Match or an OkCupid, it's open-ended search and open-ended messaging. And I think that's a great way to start sending messages and just see what happens. But most of my clients in their 50s and 60s are getting messages from guys in their 40s. Just
go for
reality.
it, ladies.
Just reality.
You see women, especially women over 40, and their profiles. This is how you got started. What kind of tips can you give somebody who's now heard you and who's like inspired to really take control of their dating life and take it online? What are some things that she really needs to know?
Okay. Well, aside from the free profile starter kit, which I know you will link to.
Yes.
Which is like a plug and play profile. It tells you everything that needs to go in there.
Let's be more clear about that. You have a profile starter kit on your website.
Yes.
And it's free.
So it's designed for anyone that doesn't know how to get started writing that About Me section.
Yes.
And it has writing prompts. It has templates that I've written profiles for other clients and made it like, do you remember Mad Libs? Like where you used to fill in, you just fill in the blank and make it your own profile.
Oh, cool.
And it really works. And so it doesn't matter whether it came out of your mind or whether I gave you sort of the training wheels to get you riding. The most important thing is that you get online.
Right.
But I don't want to dodge the question. The most important thing to keep in mind with your profile is that it needs to be authentic. And this is where my strategy differs from a lot of other a lot of other dating coaches. I'm not going to tell you to get glamour shots and doll yourself up if you're never going to show up on a date like that. And you're going to present yourself as someone that you're not.
Yeah.
I'm much more interested in figuring out how to get your own personality to come across in your photos. There are 3 C's that every profile must have. And that in the photos: color, context, and character. Color is your best way of standing out of a lineup or a swipe session. Then it stands out when somebody is going through a ton of photos. And these are just little tricks, like people think, I don't want to use these gimmicks. It's not a gimmick. It's a way to train the person that is swiping through to notice you.
Yeah.
So it just gives you
just
a leg
like
up on the it's just like casting. It just gives you a leg up on the competition.
Right.
So red in particular, you're wearing a beautiful red shirt today. It's kind of an orangey red.
Yeah.
But that's a great color for standing out. And men are actually more biologically attracted to the color red. Again, studies have shown that if a man looks at a picture of a woman and she's wearing red, and they could look at the same picture of the same woman, but the color of the dress is green, he'll rate the woman wearing red as more attractive.
Huh.
It's biological conditioning. The second one...
Let's pause for letting all the women go out and buy red.
I know, right? Right? I know, but I'm like, oh, great. I've been saying this, and now everyone is going to have red, and nobody's going to stand out. And then I'll come up with like whatever the new thing is to stand out then. But it's been red for a while.
Okay.
Color, context, telling your life story through your photos. This is like what I was doing with actors all along. What are you about? People are really stretched for time right now. And so we're not reading as much as we used to. If you can tell your story through your photos, you will also set yourself apart from the other women that they're looking at. And then character.
Wait, hold on one second. So obviously you don't want to be adding your kids to the photos and things like that. How do you can you give me some examples of ways you can tell your story?
You enjoy travel. Have a picture of you in the lemon groves in Italy. They have lemon groves?
Yeah, totally.
Sure, totally. The vineyards in Italy. Okay, there you go. You enjoy hiking. A picture of you out hiking. And this isn't sweaty you.
Yeah.
This is like best version of you.
Yes.
So
Active
it's
you.
authentic,
yes.
but it's the best version of you.
But don't do a hiking picture if you absolutely hate hiking. And then some guy wants to go hiking with you and you're miserable.
Exactly. And if you don't have any hobbies, get some hobbies because you're going to need them. You're going to need something to talk about in dating other than your kids. Please don't talk about your kids on the first date.
Or your ex.
Or definitely don't talk about your ex. And don't talk about your dating coach. I hate that when people are like, I was telling them about my dating coach. I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that. No, just
you're like, I need to be anonymous.
Exactly. And then the third one, this is the most important one and the one that most people miss, is character. Mm-hmm. This is your personality. What are you about? Are you quirky? Are you outgoing? Are you more quiet? Are you more comfortable like in a bookstore than you are like partying out with friends? Don't be afraid to show that part of you because that is the thing that makes someone really connect and take the initiative. Think of them swiping through and they're like, oh, red picture. Let me go and see their other pictures. And then they're like, oh, okay, I like she's into travel and she scuba dives and I scuba dive and she's active and this lines up with my life. Oh, and also she likes to read books. Wow, that's my kind of girl. I'm not looking for a party girl. I'm looking for a girl that likes to read books. Now I'm going to take initiative and actually write to her. And that's what we're trying to do. Right. And only 3 to 5 photos. Well, I'll say 4 to 5 photos is really all you need. People think that it has to be like their Instagram wall. Like, you don't need to put your entire life story in the profile, just enough information to give them, to get them to take initiative and write.
Right. I heard this tip a long time ago on, I don't know, one of the talk shows I was working on. And it was a dating person who said, don't use photos that you use publicly elsewhere because they could do a Google
reverse search, image search,
right? What do you think of that?
Well, there has been a shift in online
this was probably
dating.
10 years ago.
Yeah, well, the shift, it's a good advice. It's just something to keep in mind that you can do a reverse image search because you can use that as a tool when you are searching for other people and you're like, I don't know, something felt wrong about him or what he said. Right. Do an image search and see if it comes up.
Yeah, and so basically, if you don't know what we're talking about, you just take that image and you put it into Google and then it will search for images that match.
Exactly.
And so then you can find Facebook profiles or other, I am a super sleuth. I may not be dating, but like I had a friend who gave me the first name only of someone she went on a date with. He wouldn't tell her his last name because he was working with a high profile person. And this is LA, right?
Yeah.
And so he said the first name and she, I think, no, not even the one little tidbit about him. And I found out, I totally found him. And I was like, by the way, this is the celebrity he's like so protective of. And it was, I'll tell you offline, it was ridiculous.
It always is. You're like, if everybody's working with somebody.
Yeah. If it's not Brad Pitt or something, I think you're okay. Anyway.
But that is such an LA thing to say. But now there's been a move towards authenticity in dating apps, which I really like. Now we're not using profile names. Like I used to be like clever 221 or something. Right. Which I actually heard a stat that clever is like one of the words that men don't respond to. And I'm like,
really?
Again, BS. Don't listen to any of that.
So what do you use now? Your actual first name?
It's your actual first name and your actual age.
Okay.
So I think it's good because it's given people more of a level of just comfort with dating apps, because it used to feel like this anonymous thing, like I might meet some serial killer who's been looking for victims on dating apps, paying $29.99 to Match.com to come and take,
is that like a write-off for him then if he's a killer?
But we hear that too. Like there was even a recent lawsuit against OkCupid, some of the free dating sites that Match owns, because they were saying, they're not doing background checks and protecting their users. Now Match does it because it's a paid site, but you use a free site, you're going to get free service.
Yeah. You were talking about this on your last episode.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So you have to take responsibility for your safety, but Jackie, there were so many guys that I went home with from bars that I don't know. I don't know their middle name. I don't know their last name. I don't know what they do for a living. I don't know any information about them. I never ran a background check. And if something happened to me, I wouldn't go and sue the bar.
Right.
Thank God nothing
resemble
did.
that remark. No, there were, and for all intents and purposes, I should be dead based on my dating.
I'm going to write a book called I Could Have Been Dead.
Yeah.
But thankfully it never happened to me.
So you should not
happen to my clients. But me, just common sense.
Yes.
And a lot of the apps have safety tips. I have safety tips on my website. Like meet people in a public place that you're familiar with. Give somebody else the information that you have about the person. Let them know that you're going out with them and when you'll be back. Yeah. And text them when you get home and say if you haven't texted. I mean, it's
you could even drop a pin to a friend.
You could drop a pin. I know a lot of people that do that. It's a great idea. But most of it is just so that you can show up to the date and not be worried and really be able to be authentic and be yourself. I've been doing this for 15 years. I would say there's only been one client story where I was like, girl, that could have gone really wrong.
Yeah.
Other than that, pretty much all of the people that my clients have met have been really nice people. Some of them just haven't been the one. And that's, for the most part, the worst thing that's going to happen.
Right.
But still, be smart, be vigilant, and take care of yourself, and you can have a great time with dating apps if you do it the right way.
Right. Awesome. I think this is really great information. And if somebody listening has that on there, I'm all about like the vision board for the new year and all that woo-woo stuff, but if you've got like being in a relationship on your mind and in your priorities, you have to follow Damona's podcast and website. Like, you are a wealth of information. I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
So
I think you're awesome.
Thank you. I have one last question.
Okay.
What does it mean to you to 40 Thrive?
I think it's about being in the moment where you are. I've had a lot of really exciting experiences, like, getting to host a couple of television shows where I'm like, I never dreamed that this would happen. And I'm sitting on set going, just be here right now. Yes. Because we're always either thinking about the past or thinking about what we want to have happen in the future. And I do the same thing. Like when I'm going on dates with my husband, I'm like, this moment right here, this is so great. And even the moments that aren't so great, I try to just live in, this is happening right now. And this is not my eternity. This is not my 50th Thrive. This is not my 60th Thrive. This is the now.
Yep. And
I want to be here for it.
I love it. I mean, it's such a simple but powerful way to live when you live in the present. Thank you so much, Damona, and thank you so much for listening. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend. You know the one, she's ready to make love a priority in 2020. And don't forget to check out all 10 gifts in our 10 days of giveaways.